Now you have the record button.
Yep. You see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Welcome, 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 our valued and cherished CBRG students and families. This is a unique time in history. We all know that. We're all doing what we have to do, and life does not stop because there's a pandemic out there. So we need to figure out what to do and how to adjust, and going off to college is a unique and challenging experience in the best of times, and there's a lot of things that are unique about how this transition will work due to the situation, and we wanted to address some of those issues. So that's the reason that we wanted to hold this webinar today. So we put in a bunch of content. We will have everybody muted during the presentation, but if you have questions, please, I welcome you to just write the question in your chat box with your meeting controls. We'll try to address it as we go, and if we're not able to get to all the questions, then we'll make sure we answer all of them at the end. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to us. After today, we're here for you, so please don't be a stranger, okay? With that being said, Janet, take it away.
Well, the first thing I want to say to everybody is I really, we as a company want to congratulate you all on your outstanding achievements. Both seniors and parents, there were a lot of outstanding achievements on both sides. And we wanted to say that we are absolutely thrilled and excited for you as you move on to college. We want to thank you for letting us be a part of your process. It's very rewarding for us. We're honored with that, and we wanted to thank you for letting us do that. So that's kind of I'm starting, and I just want to kind of go to the agenda and talk about today. There's a lot of fear out there, a lot of uncertainty. So what we're going to talk about is what's going on with the colleges, what should you know, a new mindset for fall, how you should think about fall, things to keep you on track. Stephen is going to talk about some financial considerations during this time, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So we're going to start with the next slide, which is really about what's going on with the colleges. And the thing you have to realize is that there's never been a precedent like this. So everybody's kind of running around and trying to figure out what to do. Everybody is. So you're not alone in feeling uncertain, nervous, all those things, because everybody's doing the same thing. And I can't tell you how many webinars I have been with college presidents, testing centers, the college's reps, everyone. And they're all in the same situation. So this has changed everything we know about applying and attending college at the moment. There are some things that are the same, and we'll go back to being the same. But right now, everything has changed. So the colleges, just like families, they've taken a huge financial hit here, and they're worried about all of that, just like the families are during this time. So that's one thing that they're thinking about as well. Now, colleges are faced with challenging decisions about what they're supposed to do. Summer programs, freshman orientation, course selection, faculty availability, dining availability, dorming, classroom distancing. They're trying to work that all out right now. And that's where we are in the process. So I'm going to go on to the next slide and really talk about what you should know. One, that everyone I've talked to, every president, every rep, the most important thing they are interested in is the safety and the health of the student and their faculty and staff. So that is the #1 priority across the board with everyone. So all the colleges are working on plans, hybrid plans, this plan, that plan. The goal is to get students back in the fall. All the colleges feel the same way. They want students on the campus. So all the plans are designed with that in mind. Hybrid plans where some students are off and then they come back are all designed for distancing. That's what they're there for. A number of the schools I've talked to have hired experts in the field and have really using them. I know that Emory is right next to the CDC, and they have experts from the CDC coming in to figure out the best way that they can provide the safest environment for students. So that's really what they're doing. With all that said, the most important thing that students have to know is that there will be college next year. There will be classes. There will be students. There will be a college experience. And the colleges are going to make that experience the best that they can possibly make it. Now, if your college has not told you what their plan is, they will. I've heard that a lot of colleges are launching their plans in July. So many colleges will be showing what they're going to be doing this fall in July. So if you haven't heard yet, you will hear that. So I want all the students to hear this. There will be college classes, there will be students, there will be a college experience. It might be a little different than you thought right now, but it will be there for you. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. Actually, the Chronicle of Higher Education had some pictures that I thought were interesting about what some of these things mean. And the reason I put these on here is so these are very doable things. So when you think about it in an abstract way, and you think about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? That can be scary and uncertain. But when you look at the reality of what they're thinking, it's not that scary. It's what you're doing now. It's a little bit different, but there's no great surprises here. So I think it's a lot calmer than you think. I think it will be.
So Janet, I have one question maybe you can answer that somebody posted to me. They're asking about residential living and how are they going to, if they're going to be lowering their occupancy, then how does that translate to getting the housing that you need on campus, and how are they going to keep the environment inside the dorms safe?
There's a lot of talk about this, a lot of discussion about how they're going to be doing it. There's monitoring that they said that they will have monitors walking around, making sure the students are staying socially distant and things like that. There is going to be a lot of orientation on this about how the actual procedure when they get to school about how to do this. There's going to be hand sanitizer every 2 minutes, every second. There's going to be masks that have to be worn in certain group areas where you may not have to wear it in your room, you may have to wear it in the lounge or things like that. So they are covering all of those. The idea is they'd like to have single rooms for students so that there's not the closeness of dorm rooms where you have a roommate and things like that. So that's part of this process, and to do that, they really have to figure out who's on campus and who's not. So it's a real balancing act of that. But the plans are the same plans that you've been doing. Washing the hands, making sure you have a mask on in public areas, things like that, and they will be enforcing that. They can reprimand students. So if they see students running around that are not doing it, they can reprimand them.
One of our families just brought up a great point. that Pitt had just announced that they are going to be using hotels, right? And right now the hotels are looking for people. So this is interesting. That's the solution you and I have talked about, that a lot of colleges that can do that are going to do it. And then there's going to be a question of the proximity of the hotels, and then the logistics of getting the students from the hotels to the campus and things like that. And those are all things they're going to work out. And I also had heard from a lot of colleges that no one's allowed to enter any of the dorms without being temporarily scanned, right? And no guests outside of people that only are supposed to be in the building. So it's for sure, like you're saying, Janet, it's going to be a very different environment. And it's going to entail everyone being patient and adapting to these changing environments, but they're working on it, and there will be plans, and there would be bumps in the road, but we've got to be resilient, right?
And remember, if they choose to do 50% occupancy, they may have 50% of students not on campus. So they will have room if they need to work through that. But I know that there's transportation that they're providing from different places. I know that hotels are an option. They might not do as much private housing. They may want to keep students sort of in the area and monitored to a certain amount. So they're really looking at the health of the student and what is the best thing for them. So the mindset for the fall, okay. Be open to change and be prepared to adapt. That's the best advice we can give right now, and all the colleges are saying the same thing. It could change for the better, and by November, we either have a vaccine or the virus is no longer viable, and everything gets back to normal, just the way it used to be. It could get a little bit more sectioned off if things get worse, but be prepared for all of that. Everybody's in the same situation, and that's important to recognize too, including college administrators. Be patient with it, with yourself as far as not knowing, and be patient with others, because everybody is asking those questions. We want to know, we want it, and they're trying to figure it out with us. They've talked about this. They wish they had more answers, but until the CDC says certain things that they can do and they can't do, they really are trying to work those out. Take care of yourself personally. In uncertain times, there can be a lot of stress. If you don't understand something or you feel confused, ask for help. Ask questions. It's okay. Parents, I know you have a lot of questions. It's better if your student, now that they are a college student, it is important that they ask, although if you have a question, you certainly can ask. But the colleges like to hear from their students, so it's a good time for students to start asking questions. The long and the short of it is, for all the students, take care of business. You're there to get a degree. So right now, focus on your plan, focus on your long-term goals. If you have grad school, on your horizon, that's what you're there for. That's what you're focusing on. This stuff is just stuff. At the end of the day, you want that degree. You want to really focus on that. Understand, as Stephen said before, the first year of college is tough. I want to say, I want all the students to remember their first day of high school. Coming out of middle school, you know that feeling? You don't know what's happening. I don't know what class, I don't know where my classes are, I don't know all of that. That's going to be that feeling again. You're in a new environment. You need to just relax and go with it. That's what orientation is for. That's why orientation is so important. So when you get there, you sort of know what's happening. Be good to yourself. Give yourself time to feel comfortable. For every every student that I know of, the first few weeks, even the first month, even the first 2 months of college is a little unnerving, getting used to things. But by Christmas, most students are settled in. They have their friend group, they're happy. Parents who have had other children go to college, you know this. That first couple of, there's homesickness, but usually by Christmas, everybody's found their place and they're happy and they're moving along. So just give it time.
Really quick, just to add to that, we've heard a lot from colleges about how they're putting all their staff on call, like making them aware of really helping this year's freshman class adapt and adjust, right? Because a lot of times things happen naturally when things are normal and everyone's together and there's activities, and now there's going to be challenges for that. So students really have to be advocates for themselves this year if they're having upsets or troubles or challenges. And don't be afraid to speak to your RAs, okay? Your resident assistants. They're being charged because they're like on the front lines, and they're saying, make sure that you're talking to all the students on your floor and make sure they're adjusting. And if they're not, let's bring them in, let's get them involved. And if, as far as mental health services, they're going to really be pulling out all the resources that they need. So don't be afraid to reach out to any of the staff, any of the admin, if you're having challenges, because you will find overwhelmingly this year, they're going to really be cognizant of those types of needs.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Great point. Things to keep you on track. So now that we focused on the stuff that's new and coming, let's get focused on what you need to do now. These are just a few things, but I want to focus in on them because they're important. Keeping track of important dates, such as orientation, viewing your course catalog. Here's an important one. Review the rules of your scholarship or honors that you were awarded. Make sure you know the rules going in. Find out who your advisors are. Schedule an appointment with them. Even if it's a Zoom appointment right now, you can get to know them, start to talk to them. That's okay. They will be allowing that early, so in a lot of schools. Submit your housing applications. Now, you may not, where rooming is going to be a little awkward this year. You may not get the housing that you want in the fall, but that may change later on in the fall. And if you're unhappy with your housing, I say this to all students, if you're unhappy with your housing, talk to your RA first and then talk to housing. They're there to make you comfortable. So if you're not comfortable with your housing for whatever reason, you need to go and ask and make sure. If accommodations are needed, make sure you talk to disability services and talk to them about your accommodations. All the rest here, just make sure that you're keeping track of those important dates while you're thinking about it now. If there's things you can get done now, go do it. Keep focused on what you do need to do. Okay? One more on this, and that's the next slide on this. I've told everyone this, I'm very risk averse. I like to know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, where I'm going. So one of the things I really recommend is start investigating your campus. Go in and look at some of these centers and offices before you go. Find out what they do, what services they have. It's really, really important. You'll feel more like you know your school. Now, orientation will do this. They will introduce you to all these things. But if you already have an idea of where the financial aid office, oh, you know that's in the student union, and I know that this is there, the writing and tutoring centers, okay, I know where that is. So if you already have a feeling for where things are, you're going to feel more comfortable when you get there. So I think that's some of the things that you can kind of look into right this minute to make you feel more connected with your college. So that's what I have, and I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, let him talk a little bit about the financial considerations.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the money stuff, right? Which is what I tend to focus on. But again, you know me, I think that balance is so important. But there's strain on everyone. That's government. That's local governments. That's our own budgets and our own households. And the colleges are not immune to this, right? So they've been faced with unbelievable challenges, okay, because of having to adapt this past semester to getting their kids out and adapting to going to full online learning on the fly. They were not geared up for it, and they had to pull together tremendous resources. And then you talk about all the other things that we're hitting. There's real financial strain, and I think that gives a lot of people worry about, well, what about any money that they give as far as need-based aid or merit-based aid, and how that might be affected. So there's countless examples from colleges that are discussing all the different aspects of this issue. I thought that this statement put out by Northwestern kind of summed it up pretty well, which is why I put it in there. Okay, and they write, sober reality is COVID-19 is having a significant impact on colleges' funding, right? And it's not unlike other colleges. So one is the financial hardship on families means that more people are asking for more aid, right? And depending on how that school gives money, that could be a very expensive proposition, and Northwestern is one of the schools that's very, very generous with need-based type of aid, and so that could impact them greatly, okay? They also have declines in markets. That means that their endowments that they set up took a tremendous hit, and even if it's come back, it's that volatility that produces risk that also could pressure them to slow down the money that they're removing from that endowment. They're talking about the revenue reduction in room and board and other things like that, especially to sports, right? Sports revenues, all that stopped. Not only did they have to get all the kids out, but they also had to refund a portion of their room and board, right? So, that's a challenge as well for them. So the loss of revenue due to many on-campus courses. So when this whole thing started to play out, we were discussing it internally and thinking about the way that things might go financially. Would colleges really scale back in the 8-day game? Would it not affect things? Or would they actually be better, right? And I personally felt that it would probably be better. If everyone could just mute themselves, I don't see who's on here that's not good. But if everyone could mute themselves, I'd appreciate it. So anyway, the reason I felt like the money might be better this year is because part of the discussion was they're very worried about getting the kids to come this year. And that means that what power do they have to influence their decision to come or not come? And that's the purse strings, okay? And by giving more money, it makes it easier for them to yield more students, and they'd rather give more money and get a student than give less and have empty seats. And that actually is how it played out. We saw with our clients, and certainly in this field this year, that the awards were great, right? And then one of the statements that that Northwestern then said is that even though they're facing all these financial troubles, we will fully honor all student financial aid commitments, and we will provide increased financial support to undergraduate students with demonstrated need. So that's what I believe, that's what we've seen happening, and that's what they actually out and stated. Now, this is now going forward, it's a little bit more of a wild card of how long this goes on and how dramatic those financial pressures might become, okay? So one of the things to be cognizant of is that when colleges take in students as incoming freshmen, that's when they really go ahead and make financial determinations that they budget to have to meet for all 4 years that student is in school, right? So if a student got a need-based award and the family has the same need next year, it's very rare that a college will then lower that award because they say they don't have as much money. They may lower the award for new students next year, but still maintain the higher award for students that are already there. This is the way most colleges budget, okay? So that really brings me to my next slide, is this is for now. There's a lot of talk out there about the considerations for students that are looking at potentially doing a first semester of online learning and saying, is it worth spending all this money to go ahead and do online learning? I mean, I could do that for a heck of a lot less, okay, and then maybe transfer, okay? Well, the truth of the matter is that, well, if you transfer, one, they might not be giving nearly as much money next year as they are this year, okay? Two, if there's a lot of students that delay going this year, that could really affect the applicant pool for next year. And it's a new application. It's treated almost like a transfer student because they're not coming directly out of school. And there's different applicant pools that the colleges are considering. And how they allocate money is usually much less money to the transfers than it is to incoming freshmen. So while it might be enticing to say, well, I'll take some time off and go back and save the money, it could be something that backfires, okay, of either getting in or getting the kind of awards that you got this year. That same issues relate to a gap year. There's been a lot of talk about this and students potentially looking to take gap years. Well, one, remember, that's not a guarantee. You apply, you get in, and then you have to request that the college grants you this deferment to allow you to do a gap year, and they want to see a gap year program. It's not that you could, take online classes for a year or, work somewhere. They want a bona fide gap year program most of the time. Okay, and they're certainly not going to allow a lot of students to do it because it's not good for them. So they'll usually allot a certain number, and there's no indication that this year they're going to really increase the amount that they would even allow no matter what you do, right? So they don't want empty seats, and so they control that. So the financial aid awards, merit and need, I touched on that. There's also the healthcare and insurance costs. This is something that I think this year people should be very cognizant of looking into. If your child is covered under your health plan, right, just make sure you analyze how that transfers to what kind of coverage they would have if they're out of state, right? And so that might entail you discussing that with your health insurance company to say, my student's going to go to school in Georgia, and what kind of coverage do they have there, right? Because there is a wicked virus out there, and God forbid something happens, you want to have the best care that you can get for your child, okay? So being aware of that, and many of the colleges would also offer, almost all the colleges would also offer an opportunity to buy a healthcare plan. Some have very limited choices, some have a lot of choices, and most people don't look into those too much, but this might be a year where you might want to look at that a little closer to see what kind of coverage you might be able to get if they're out of state, and how does that compare to if they were to stay on your plan. So just want you to consider that. Also, student loans. One of the good things is that the interest rates have plummeted. They're at the lowest rates that they've been. And all indications are is that next year they're going to be even lower. So it could be an advantage, especially this year, if there was ever a time that you were saying, well, maybe I'll use the money that I've saved to pay for college now, and if I have to, I'll take out loans later on, it might be advantageous to flip the script on that too, okay? And maybe take some of those really low interest loans now, because who knows what will happen to interest rates a few years from now. So just a couple of things to consider. And again, if there's anything financial that relates to this, you know, that's what we're here for. We love to talk about that. So we had a few questions, but I think I addressed them. And I think Janet did too. If anybody else has anything, just please post it now. But we appreciate you taking the time out. We hope that this put our students and families with a little bit more knowledge of what's going on, a little bit more at ease. I think that's really the message we wanted to convey, is that we know things are turbulent and a little crazy right now, but we're all going to work through this. The colleges are really all over this, okay? And so you just go with the flow a bit, and you will get through it. And if you go through it with that kind of an attitude, you will be very successful and have a phenomenal college experience. So Janet, if you want to add anything.
That was perfect, Stephen. Just remember to just be good to yourself, adapt, be open to whatever comes, and just say, oh, okay, that's new. And laugh about it and move on. And keep your eye on the goal. The goal is to get our degree. The goal is to keep your long-term plan and to go in that direction.
Okay, and remember that we're here and we will be here even when your kids are in college. So we've worked with literally thousands of families and students, and we keep in touch with a lot of them to see how they're transitioning. And so if there's any issues that arise that we could help provide insight or guidance on, don't think you have to make an appointment. You could just pick up the phone or write us an email, and we will be glad to help in any way that we can. So as always, please, everyone, stay safe, enjoy your families, right? We have a little bit more family time now, so that's one of the benefits that, you know, I've been able to see my kids more than I would have before then. So that's the silver lining in all this. So, all right, thank you so much, and everyone be well. All right, have a great day.